Well, hello there, this is Temil, and today I wanted to ramble about flat artwork. There are different people doing it in different styles, and so I'll just want to mention quickly what to look up to get inspired. The first thing, it's not usually what I would go for, but it's one of the things, is you go for vector art. And if you don't know what vector art is, most of the time people use pen tool to create vector artwork. The thing is, this has to do a lot with logo design. And the thing with logo design is you can think of it as a clear read. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that we want to take from vector art, is that it has a very, very clear read, and it's easy to see it, understand it, and it looks good when it's big or small. The next thing that you can look is kind of similar to the first, but you can go on Behance. Dun dun! Behance is a website that people use to post their portfolios, and there are many different things in there, right? So there's photography, there's app design, UX, there's many things there. And I want to say that you want to go into illustration category, and in the illustration category you're going to find a lot of flat artwork, and a lot of times it will look more corporate and it will look more designy, graphic design. So it's not exactly what we as painters do, like in Clip Studio Paint or other things, but I really like looking at it to get inspired and see how can I see the same artwork their way. What can I learn from them? One of them is color, and specifically you want to look at color harmony. And a lot of times I would even argue that without color, when it looks black and white, most of those artworks will not work. And when you create flat art, that is one of the things that are going to hold your piece together, is really good color harmony. When it comes to color, I think a very cool, and this is my favorite part to look up and to get inspired by, is probably children's book illustration. And children's book is really great way to look at things and learn from it, because again, they have really good color harmony and they have a really clear read, because you have like a child that is like very small and they don't understand everything, but they want to have it like in a very simplified way. And you can draw something like a bear, but you want to make sure that it's understandable for the child, that it's still a bear and that it looks cute and it looks, appealing. And here's another thing that we can learn from children's book, is appeal versus realism. And I will be demonstrating this in the painting portion of this video, but basically you don't want to create a super realistic thing. You want to simplify it and make sure that it looks appealing. And what does that actually mean? So I'll do a very quick example, but you have, for example, an apple, right? And you would do an apple and you would do the small like leaves, and then you would do the texture, and it will look good if you make all the colors correct, if you shade it properly, and if you make it perfect. But if it's on a small versus big, it's not going to read that good compared to everything else. So that's why you have to think of it as shape. You want to do color harmony and you want to do clear read. And also another strong part of children's book illustration is texture. And texture has to be really kind of like in the perfect amount, that it's like it feels more traditional. That's the thing. You want to make sure you have nice brushes. I know that's very like, it doesn't matter which brush you use, but in this case I really recommend having something more textured. And even this G-Pen, I can create an artwork using this, but it's going to be very digital looking and very kind of like normal. And when you do children's illustration, you want it to look more cozy and cute and all of those things. And that's why we can even go into pencil category and find the pencil, and you just find the proper size that you want to work with. And after that, you can play around with shape again. So clear read, color harmony, texture. We want to create an apple with this textured pencil and think of it as a shape. So we can make one leaf like really, really big and very normal, and the other one will be like more small and maybe a little bit more wonky, and some of these will be more sharp and some of these will be less sharp, and you can add little weird parts to the apple that will look more interesting and make the picture more appealing. And usually you want to go for something realistic. These are, you know, the general colors, even though it looks like a tomato now. Let's just say it's a tomato. You can go like that, but here's another part that you can improve when you create your, you know, cute artwork. So let's find a brush that can work for this, and there are many brushes that you can go for, but let's say I go with couch. And here's the secret sauce that I want to mention. I usually don't use this. I don't recommend using this unless you know what you're doing. But there's a website, for example, this one is called colors.co, and it gives you different color variation based on, you know, the topic or style or anything else. And it's going to give you good color combinations that are already working together. But let's say we want the green and we want the red, correct? That's what we want in our apple or tomato or whatever I'm drawing. But let's say I like this one. This has a little bit red, it has a little bit green, and it has like different other colors. So I'll just go ahead and copy this, and I copied the color palette. Now that we have this, we can create a new layer, and let's just call this color fill. And we go into the thin gouge, and I will say this very good smart thing that I should know and I should have been using white background is very, very bad. So this is bad, and it really depends on the kind of artwork you're creating again, but starting with pure 50% gray is a really good start. But because we're creating this cutesy illustration that is not exactly going to be realistic, we want to have an underpainting. And to have an underpainting, we can select a color that we think is going to complement our entire artwork. And in this case, I'll just pick this one and see how it feels, or even the yellow. So let's just pick the yellow, and I will create an underpainting, and I will do the thin gouge. And you don't want to go like this and you just like fill it with like one button. No, what you want to do, in my opinion, you know, you don't have to do this. I think that if you have a semi-transparent brush that has like texture to it, which is what we wanted, doing this little ritual of having the strokes inside your canvas, and again, you can put this down and think in a way that what makes for an interesting stroke. So I am trying to go around the image and around the apple or tomato, or if this is even a banana, I don't know at this point. I want to go around so that I can create interesting feel to it, that it has more personality to it again. And I can just keep going until I almost fill everything. And then after that, I will just go like this so that I can fill in the behind. And then I'll just make a new layer, and I'll select the red. And this time I'm going to create this part, and that way I can again have the texture, and I know that the apple is going to be warping this way, so I'm trying to copy the texture in this way. And then I will create the green that I already found, and again I will try to follow what the leaf will go, like which way is it going. And then I will probably add a little bit of a highlight in here, and just like that. And we have this pink, so why not just use this pink already to create just a little bit shading for our existing apple. And this is very touchy subject because This is where the part where we're going to go off what we already have. So we're risking to make mistakes, but that's fine. That's completely fine. I'm going to take this risk and just keep experimenting with the color. And then we mixed the color with pre-existing red that we had. So that way we can actually think of it as like a shading color. And again, this is not realistic way of coloring the apple, but it has this like personality to it. And here's another thing we can do. We create a new layer. We're going to select this. So just any color that you want to use. We do a little bit smaller brush. If I zoom in, this is probably going to help so that you can see better. But I just don't want to, again, this is good when you do big scale and you have the navigator, so you can see that it reads pretty good on smaller scale. You don't want to go too much into detail, and that's why I'm zooming out so much. And you can make this secondary texture that you're going to have, and this is kind of like therapeutic at this point. It really depends if you like this or you don't like this. I personally don't enjoy usually doing this, but for this type of artwork, for some reason I've been kind of getting into it like way more, and I don't mind it. It's really kind of chill and nice to just go ahead and create just like interesting strokes. And this looks ugly for now, but don't stop. Don't stop, just keep going. Just it's kind of like the cross-hatching back in like middle school when you're bored and you don't know what to draw, but they're like, you know, you don't have any homework and you're just like waiting for your parents to pick you up. We're going to find a blending layer that is going to work better. So we can do overlay, or we can do soft light, or we can do hard light. It really depends on what color you picked. Again, this is like all experimenting, all trying out and failing. And I can just go in here and maybe do 20%. And then I remove it and I show it. And it's not as big of a difference. So maybe I will do soft light and increase it. And that way we can add even just a little bit more texture than we had before. And after we're done with all of this, we want to add more sketchiness to it. So we have this dry ink that we have found, and in this case I think I already have like a pretty good sketch feel to it, and I can remove it. But let's just keep drawing on top of this, and when I zoom in we can play around with big versus small. So you have this big shapes, but you want to use a very tiny brush that is going to be working in our favor. And I can pick this color, right? And I can just use a very saturated darker so that we can draw on top of it and add a little bit more contrast to our image. And this is going to add even more personality to it so that we can, and again, in art school, usually people tell you like, you have to have very confident strokes, like make a circle, make a square. Like they don't like this part. This is not good. You just want like 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to, you know, do this. It's not good. But in this case, you're choosing your own kind of like, you make mistakes on purpose so that it looks more accessible to, you know, children, or more accessible to people who feel like, oh, this was probably drawn by a 5-year-old, but like in a good way, you know, not like you failed as an artist, more like you just made mistakes that feel like mistakes, but they're not really there for real. They're just there because you chose to. We can go with our pencil, and we're going to make this into a little character, because how can you have something cute and children's book illustration if it's not going to be a little character? And filling in like this, again, just helps to blend in things together and make it seem like someone sat down and actually made this. Not a computer made it, but you made it. And once we have this, we can go in here and then maybe zoom in and just add like very, very cheesy highlights that people do with their artwork. And you can add more contrast with darker tones. And again, this is less correct. If I was painting this traditionally, I would be like, okay, well, this is our major shadow, and this is going to be like a little bit more saturated, this part. And then you would sit down and try to find what the mid-tone is for the highlight and all those things. It will be more detailed, more graphical, but here you kind of just like play around with it and make sure that you have enough. But in here, you're your own, your own person. You're trying to just make a thing that you think is going to be exactly what you wanted. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. You can subscribe, like, share this video with other people. Let me know if you have any questions. I usually try to answer them. And I hope you like the little illustration that I'm going to make. And yeah, thank you so much and happy painting.